So the voice is, here's the, let's see, here's the non-modified version of the
Shut
vocal.
in, we can't visit. We've processed the news, now there's absolutely.
So they're beautiful. They're very dry, which is exactly what I wanted. So what I did with those, I'll actually show you. So I mentioned that I'm not classically trained. So since I didn't just hear what key it was in, I know some of you will be able to right off the bat. Some of you will be able to figure it out really easily, but I didn't. So what I did is I actually just took this clip, and in Ableton, you can convert a melody to a new MIDI track. If you're using a different DAW, you can just play along with it. But what you end up with is a literal piano roll representation of the melody. Don't worry, I won't spend too much time on this if you do know music theory. So what I did was I just came in here and I looked at what are the notes that we're using. Um, I took note of which notes are sharp. Most DAWs actually don't do flats, so you have to start with sharps, and then if you have to convert them, then you do. But then my trick, because I always have a trick, was I just looked it up based on the key signature. Um, so I found out that this was in B major, and that's where we started from. Um, Obviously, I already have this open. So that was my little trick for finding out what key it was in. You may or may not need to do that step, but if you do need to do that, don't forget to do it. um, so what I did was I knew the time signature because in this case she gave me this in an Ableton project. Otherwise, you can always tap in the rhythm and find it that way. Um, so it's in B major. I wanted to modulate into B minor for one part of the song, and so all I did was I went on Splice and I searched with that filter. Um, I only want samples that are in that key, and so that's where I got these. Let me solo these. These are actually the least changed samples. This one and this one. Crap. So the only thing that is edited about those is they're warped. Now in other software, you can quantize the samples. Here, all it does, so in this case, I choose Complex Pro because these are complex waveforms. Um, but it basically just takes all the transients of that waveform and puts them on the grid like you would quantize MIDI, basically. So these were fairly close in BPM to what I was looking for, and I just quantized them there. Which you can do just by selecting the audio, hitting Command or Control I to insert warp markers, or just hitting warp to do it automatically. And then you can actually do a quantize on this, which I'm not sure if I did before, but um, you can just tell it how far you want it to quantize it. So yeah, these are not heavily modified at all. This is the simplest insertion of a sample that we'll see. So we're moving from just dropping in a sample and quantizing it to actually making timing changes within the sample, which we'll look at just briefly here. Here is the vocal for this one part of the song. Now, Matilda's original had a different type of beat. So even though I had the same BPM, there were certain parts where it didn't quite land on the beat where I wanted it to for my version. So you can change that too. Not only can you change the overall timing of the clip, but you can go in and make little tiny adjustments. So this is what this clip looked like before I changed it.
Elders shut in.
Looked and sounded like. And then this is what it looks and sounds like after I change it. It's going to sound a bit weird out of context, but you'll see the difference immediately.
Elders shut in.
Some of the syllables are a little longer, just so that things can land on the beat that you'll end up hearing in the background. So how do I do that? It's actually really, really simple. Here's the unedited one. Yes. Thank you, Ableton. Okay, so I've selected the audio. I'm doing Command or Control I to insert warp markers. Again, those are just at transients, so like where the wave peaks, it's going to put those. And what I can do is just drag these around and it literally reshapes the waveform. So as you see this one, maybe this one lands right on the beat and maybe I wanted it to land right after the beat. You can just drag it around like that. So that is what I did here to modify that. Um, and let's hear this in context. Just how does this sound?
Elders shut in. We can't fit.
Just kind of like draws it out a little so that's a little bit of a more dramatic moment. Not necessary. There was nothing wrong with the original, but just fit my idea a little bit better. Okay, cool. So we've been over just bringing things in. We talked about timing adjustment on the clip and inside the clip, looking at the key. Let's look at drum rack next.